The man feared by all assassins, the pinnacle of the Korean assassin world. Red Shirt single-handedly carried the entire company. And now, he was about to retire. In a room filled with countless men in black suits, a scarred man stood guard with an axe. He stood alone in their midst, declaring, "I'm quitting." As soon as Cha Si-hyuk finished speaking, Hyung Nim, Chairman Lee Wang-kwan's right-hand man, asked him, "Should we kill him?" Cha Si-hyuk got into an attack stance. That man also drew a knife, about to charge. But Chairman Lee Wang-kwan waved his hand and said, "Let him go. Don't let blood be spilled." On the bus, he answered a call from his wife. He said, "I'm on my way home." He smiled. "Yeah, is little Seech behaving? Tell our child I miss them so much." Miju said over the phone, "Yeah, Seech is kicking my belly as if to say they're waiting for daddy to come home." Cha Si-hyuk was overjoyed. "Really? They're kicking my belly?" She replied, "Yes, haha. And what are you doing?" He replied, "I'm looking at a picture of little Seech." Miju said happily, "Stop looking at it. The baby will be born soon. Don't be so obsessed." Suddenly, the ring on Cha Si-hyuk's hand glinted. A man in a blue shirt was holding a knife, aiming right at him. He reacted in time, dodging the knife attack and keeping his distance from the man. The other passengers on the bus asked, "What was that noise?" But the assassin just stared at Cha Si-hyuk with listless eyes. The passengers finally reacted, screaming, "He has a knife! Call the police! The police!" Another person clutched their head, whimpering, "Help me!" The man said, "I'll save you, so shut up. Everyone get off." Then ordered Cha Si-hyuk, "Except for you." The passengers hurriedly fled the bus. He said into the phone, "Yeah, honey, I'll call you back. I love you." The knife swung again, and Cha Si-hyuk dodged it once more. He looked at the man with cold, contemptuous eyes. He lunged forward, restraining the man's knife-wielding arm. With a swing of his fist, the man tumbled to the ground. Blood sprayed from his nose. He landed another punch on his face. He choked him, making it impossible for him to breathe. Cha Si-hyuk asked, "Who are you?" The man bared his teeth, one of which was newly missing, and laughed. "You don't even recognize my face, just as I thought." The man said, "The company employees are targeting you." Cha Si-hyuk was stunned. He tightened his grip on the man's neck. Tears streamed down the man's face as he choked out one last sentence. "You think quitting is the end of it?" He raised his phone to call his wife, but only heard the automated message. "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable. Please leave a message after the tone." He was terrified, whispering, "Miju." At their home, Miju was simmering soup. She said, "The food's almost ready. He must be getting home soon." The doorbell rang. She walked to the door and asked, "Who is it?" The person outside replied, "Hello, I'm a colleague of your husband. I'm here to drop off something related to his retirement." Buju was surprised. "Retirement?" Then she opened the door. Outside was Hyung Nim. She backed away. She fell to the floor, pleading, "Please don't." He walked over and grabbed her by the hair. He put a knife to her throat. Miju cried out in pain, "Help!" Outside, Cha Si-hyuk was running home at full speed. He still held the phone, trying to reach Miju, and the familiar message played, "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable." Cha Si-hyuk was frantic, "Please!" When the door opened, Miju was gone. Instead, there were bloodstains soaking the floor and familiar footprints. He entered the living room. Hyung Nim was already sitting on the sofa. "Waiting for you to get back, were we?" He was eating the meal Miju had set on the table. He was surrounded by his henchmen. He said, "Is this why you betrayed the chairman? As far as I know, you're not the type to be bothered by these kinds of attachments." Cha Si-hyuk looked at the large bloodstain on the floor. He asked calmly, "Does the chairman know about this?" The man took off his eye patch. "I understand his intentions without having to ask, so I made the decision myself. But wait, is this interesting? What do you think?" He provoked him. "Is that girl really dead?" Cha Si-hyuk's rage reached its peak. The henchmen charged forward. The first one, holding a sword, lunged but was restrained by him. His arm broke in an instant. He groaned, looking at his dangling arm. Cha Si-hyuk snatched the knife from his hand. He stabbed him in the neck, blood splattering everywhere. 3 henchmen charged at the same time, but they too were slashed in the neck one by one, falling in agony. One was waiting in ambush on the stairs. but Cha Si-hyuk spotted him. He smashed his head down against the staircase, making him spit blood and die. The last one took advantage of an opening and kicked him off the stairs. Then they seized the opportunity and gave chase, but were ultimately punched and sent flying by Cha Si-hyuk. Hyung-nim calmly stood there, smoking a cigarette. Cha Si-hyuk stepped through the pool of blood and walked out. His white shirt was now dyed red with blood. He looked up. "This is your true self, Red Shirt." He clenched his fists and proposed, "Now have a round with me." He gripped his karambit tightly and lunged, slashing at him. Cha Si-hyuk skillfully dodged. He slashed at him, but the man was no pushover and dodged his attack. He kicked his knee joint. Cha Si-hyuk, taken by surprise, dropped to one knee. He seized the chance to slash at him but failed. He grabbed him around the waist and slammed him onto the table. He stabbed the table next to his head as a threat. He jumped up, using his karambit to try and slash his neck. But he was a step faster. Blood instantly gushed from the man's neck. He stood up, clutching his wounded neck, and stared at Cha Si-hyuk. Then he swung another blow. He slashed his karambit-wielding arm, seized the opening, and stabbed him in the chest. He spat blood and doubled over, crying out, "Oh, damn it!" He was slapped across the face again. He slammed him down onto a chair. In pain, he laughed demonically. "Ha ha, looks like I'm no match for you." He said, "Kill me." His face cold, he swung the knife down. He was dead. The room was littered with dead bodies. Blood soaking the floor, staining the walls. Everything around was covered in blood. Cha Si-hyuk entered his bedroom, remembering old memories. The time he put the ring on Miju's finger. The time Miju was pregnant. The time they looked at the ultrasound photo together. The time they leaned on each other's shoulders, looking out the window at the sunset. Now in that room, he was covered in blood, and Miju lay on the floor with her large pregnant belly, breathless. Cha Si-hyuk went to the funeral home to bury Miju, and left behind keepsakes like the ultrasound photo and the ring. He called Chairman Lee Wang-kwon and informed him, "A few of your employees came to my house." The chairman, sitting in his office, asked, "Did you kill them all?" He replied in a light tone, "I killed them." The chairman answered, "My mistake for training such fools, I apologize." Lee Wang-kwon continued, "But as foolish as they were still my men, so I have no other choice. I will send assassins." Cha Si-hyuk looked at his wife's cold coffin being moved by the staff and replied, "There's no need." He growled, saying again, "There's no need." The wedding photo of Cha Si-hyuk and Miju hanging on the wall was once beautiful. The two of them leaning on each other, smiling. But now the picture was stained with blood, indescribably gloomy. He paced back and forth in the house. He opened the door to a room, whispering, "I'll be right back." Then he opened the main door and left the house. Park Dokman sat on the sofa peeling an apple and said, "Headquarters wants us to send reinforcements. What should we do?" He cursed, "Damn it, how many people are they going to send just to catch that one guy?" The bald man said, "AQ's team was completely wiped out this time. I heard the chairman personally ordered the recovery of the bodies. Just because they're cousins, they get that kind of attention? What's so precious about a guy who died in a gang brawl?" Park Dokman scowled. "To be honest, the guys at headquarters are all about forming factions. They have no real skills." The bald man said gravely, "We're talking about Red Shirt here. If you ask me, the company picked the wrong guy to mess with. He's a legend in the assassin world. The moment he makes a move, people will follow. If we screw this up, it could explode into a real war." What the bald man said made Park Dokman worried, but he tried to play it down. "Don't exaggerate, you idiot. Rumors are always blown out of proportion." He said, "He's going up against the whole company. What can one man do?" The sound of a door opening made the assassins in the room look over. Cha Si-hyuk stood outside the door. They immediately became wary and went on the defensive. The two men on the sofa were also completely surprised, fear flashing in their eyes. Cha Si-hyuk asked, "Is the boss here?" The henchmen in the room started backing away, keeping their distance from him, starting to panic. "What the hell, isn't that Red Shirt? Is he going to take us out first? Why did he come here instead of headquarters?" Park Dokman gripped the knife in his hand, slowly approaching him, and said, What great timing." He said, "You came alone. I don't get why you came here instead of the main headquarters, but you've got guts." His face contorted. He lunged forward, grabbed his collar, and ordered, "Hey, you guys! Lock the office door!" But Lee Bong-wan walked out on his crutch, stopping them. "That's enough. Someone's gonna get hurt. The kids look truly scared of you." Lee Bong-wan continued, "It's been noisy lately thanks to you. I hope you understand." Park Dok-man, unwilling to back down, pointed at Cha Si-hyuk and said, "Boss, are we just going to let this guy go?" The man ignored him. "Make some coffee, Dok-man. He's a guest." He put his hands in his pockets and ordered his henchmen to make coffee. Cha Si-hyuk walked over and sat on the sofa. Lee Bong-wan began, "I'm very curious in a situation like this. Why would you come to see an old man who is retired from the scene like me?" Cha Si-hyuk got straight to the point. "You still have 4 men at headquarters, right? Gather them, get a car ready." He said, "Chairman Lee Bong-wan, I'm going to kill him." Park Dok-man was indignant. "What is this crazy bastard saying?" Lee Bong-wan stopped him. "Stay out of it, you damn fool." He placed the coffee cup on the table and said, "It's too late now." Then he explained, "The war for succession ended long ago. As you can see, Wang Quan and the Neville family pushed me to the side. I'm living like an exile now." Lee Bong-wan refused. "I don't have enough power anymore." He put a cigarette in his mouth, an underling lit it for him, and then continued, "But more importantly, if you can kill Wang Quan, it would suit me even better." There was silence, not a sound. After a moment, Cha Si-hyuk said contemptuously, "You coward. Still scared of your little brother? Afraid he'll chop off your other leg?" Park Dok-man, furious, clenched his fists and cursed, "You crazy bastard." Lee Bong-wan stopped him. "Don't, Dok-man. I had a bad feeling about you from the start," Park Dok-man said, grabbing Cha Si-hyuk's collar. Park Dok-man asked for permission. "Boss, let me handle this guy. If we let him go like this, the men will lose faith." Then he grabbed his collar and dragged him. "Come out, you bastard, you're dead today." He grabbed the knife on the table and stabbed towards the back of his neck. The man said, "You've got guts coming here alone." Before he could finish his sentence, he turned around. "Huh?" Seeing him holding the knife and stabbing towards him, he was pushed back against the wall. The underlings were surprised and terrified, shouting, "Hyung-nim!" He collapsed. "Ah, damn it, you son of a bitch." He was hit in the head again by Cha Si-hyuk, screaming in agony, "Ah, ah." He was dragged across the floor like a dog. The terrified underlings could only watch. He dragged him to the table where Lee Bong-wan was sitting and slammed his head on the table. Blood gushed out. With another slam, he could only mumble, then died. Everyone was horrified. Only he watched it all calmly. He said, "Hey, Lee Bong-wan, I've shown you, now it's your turn to answer." He proposed, "I'll take down your brother for you. Are you in?" Park Dok-man's blood splattered on his face. He stared at him intently. At headquarters, Chairman Lee Wang Quan mobilized all his men, saying, "We're still missing a few of our people." Vice Director Choi In-ho replied, "The 3 triplets haven't arrived yet." Director Song Jae-yeon was annoyed. "They're late even when the chairman personally calls for them. They've got some nerve." Manager Park Song-jae also chimed in, "They really have some nerve." Right after the office door opened and 3 men walked in together. One of them spoke up. "What's the big deal calling all of us here, old man? You're always complaining we're too expensive. Is it about that incident?" Another said arrogantly, "If that's the case, then perhaps we are your best choice." The remaining one snapped loudly, "Everyone be quiet, we're in front of the chairman, show some respect." The one in the middle bowed respectfully. "It's been a long time, Chairman." The others in the office looked at each other with suspicion. Chairman Lee Wang Quan glared. "Do you think you can do it?" Choi Sam-seok replied, "Just provide support for Team A. We'll take care of the rest." Lee Bong-wan looked at the car key in his hand. He said to Cha Si-hyuk, "Once Lee Wang Quan is dead, it's your turn. I'm prepared for it. What about you?" Cha Si-hyuk replied calmly, "Just provide proper support if you want your brother dead." With that, he turned and walked towards the door, grabbing the doorknob. Then he turned back and said one last thing, "See you at the company." After he left, Lee Bong-wan rubbed his forehead wearily. Humph. The veins on his arm bulged. He said to himself, "You guys, the tables have turned." Then he let out a strange laugh. Cha Si-hyuk was driving a white car down the road. glancing at the rearview mirror to see countless black cars chasing him. In one of the black cars were the three triplets. Maknae spoke up, "You should buy a washing machine." Choi Du-seok was startled. "So suddenly?" Maknae replied, "I'm serious. How much longer do we have to do laundry by hand?" Choi Du-seok said, "Drop it." Maknae whined, "Oh my God, another gaming console." He replied, "What's wrong with a Switch, you idiot?" Maknae said, "Bro, you're the one with the most laundry. I always have to do it all." Choi Du-seok retorted, "If you don't like it, get better at rock, paper, scissors." Choi Sam-seok had been sitting silently in the car until now. He suddenly yelled, "Enough! Everyone focus on the mission. If this job is a success, I'll buy everything for you." He assigned the task, "First, take care of Red Shirt." The white car suddenly turned around, heading towards the black cars. Maknae was worried. "Bro, that bastard is heading towards us." Choi Du-seok growled, "Son of a bitch." Choi Sam-seok, sitting in the back with his arms crossed, ordered, "Speed up." Choi Du-seok slammed on the gas, heading straight for the white car. He gritted his teeth, muttering, "Die, damn it." Cha Si-hyuk drove past them. Then he turned the car around for a head-on confrontation. The black car's window rolled down. Maknae looked out, horrified. "That guy is really crazy, isn't he? Everyone fall back, you bastards." More than 10 men in black suits got out of the cars, weapons in hand, standing opposite the white car. Cha Si-hyuk calmly got out, holding a large knife, his eyes scanning the crowd. One man shouted, "He's alone, charge!" Instantly, the man closest to him rushed forward, and the others followed. He also sped up and crashed into them. The sound of knives clashing rang out continuously. 2 men charged at him, but his absolute defense helped him dodge their blows, gain the upper hand, and take them down one by one. Maknae looked out the window and said, "Bro, our team is being pushed back." Choi Du-seok, looking at his phone, replied to his brother, "Of course, you idiot. Those guys are chickens. I could take them all on my own." Maknae was surprised. "You? You could take them all by yourself?" Choi Du-seok was annoyed. Maknae's been getting cocky lately. Their eldest brother called out, "Du-seok, Maknae, focus." He said with an air of importance, "It's possible that one of us won't come back today." Then he instructed, "Just do as we always do. The 3 of us are one." The 3 of them calmly got out of the car and approached Cha Si-hyuk. The men from before were dead in strange, twisted positions, blood flowing from their heads, arms, and legs, turning the place into a pool of blood. Cha Si-hyuk's white shirt and even his face were stained with blood. He turned his head to look at the 3 men. Choi Sam-seok stood at the front staring at him and then ordered, "Kill him!" As quick as lightning, the 2 sides clashed again. He threw a punch at them, thinking to himself, "The chairman's 3 brothers. There's one thing to be aware of when fighting them, and that's their coordination." The punch sent Maknae flying, but Choi Sam-seok and Choi Du-seok took the opportunity to swing their knives at him. While he was focused on attacking the other 2, Choi Du-seok jumped back, building momentum, and leaped up to slash at his back. However, Cha Si-hyuk was a step faster. He jumped onto his shoulders, somersaulted backward to dodge the blow, and kicked Choi Du-seok down. But he was no less skilled, somersaulting in midair and stabbing him in the back with his knife. He jumped onto his back, taunting, "Just an opening move." He turned around, grabbed his neck, and slammed him to the ground. The knife had fallen to the ground, its silver blade reflecting Cha Si-hyuk's calm face. He picked up the knife and stood up. Choi Sam-seok and Maknae stood opposite him, preparing their next attack. He thought to himself, his back muscles have been cut. He thought again, the longer this drags on, the more disadvantaged I'll be. I have to end this quickly. Maknae looked at Choi Sam-seok and asked, "Bro, is your face okay? Big bro's aim is really..." Choi Sam-seok replied, "We'll talk about it at home." Maknae continued to ramble. "Bro, you're done for this time," he snapped. "Maknae, stop it." Choi Du-seok, who had been lying on the ground all this time, was annoyed hearing his brothers talk. He yelled, "Hey, what are you 2 doing? Aren't you going to deal with that guy? Hurry up, finish him off." Instantly, the 2 of them rushed forward, slashing relentlessly at him. Cha Si-hyuk gradually retreated. Suddenly, Choi Do-seok rushed forward, leaped high, poised to stab him, and yelled, "You son of a bitch!" He had stabbed Cha Si-hyuk in the side of his chest. Choi Sam-seok stabbed at him. He resisted. The sound of knives clashing was chilling. He thought to himself, "I've lost too much blood. I can't last if this drags on. My opponents are seasoned veterans with long-standing teamwork." Two of them were holding both my arms while the other one decided to strike my blind spot. If I let my guard down for a second, I'll take a fatal blow. He hid behind a pillar, squinting, thinking, he's looking for an opening, a gap, he's watching. Maknae asked cheerfully, "Bro, this guy's about to die. What are you gonna do after this?" Choi Sam-seok remained highly focused, saying, "Don't be careless, you'll die." 3 against 1. Now with Cha Si-hyuk injured, he was at an even greater disadvantage. Choi Sam-seok thought, "We clearly have the upper hand, but my instincts, honed by a life as an assassin, are telling me this guy is dangerous. That look in his eyes is definitely the look of a predator watching its prey." He didn't understand, thinking, "Why? Facing a man on the brink of death, why do I feel like I'm fighting on the edge of a cliff? It's best not to be reckless." Maknae rushed forward impatiently, muttering, "Damn it!" He swung his knife in front of Cha Si-hyuk, saying, "Damn it, won't he just die?" Choi Sam-seok was terrified. "Maknae, no!" But it was too late. Maknae was caught in a headlock by Cha Si-hyuk, whose other hand held a weapon and stabbed him in the side. Maknae writhed in pain. His 2 brothers were worried. What? They then dropped their weapons to the ground and raised their hands in surrender. Choi Sam-seok begged, "I'll give you anything, just let Maknae go." Maknae said, "Damn it, if you dare buy that switch!" He cried, blood pouring from his mouth. "I swear I'm not doing laundry by hand anymore, damn it." Cha Si-hyuk flung him away, and Maknae fell to the ground, losing his balance. He asked, "What are you doing? If any of you wants to get out of here alive, then pick up your knives and keep fighting." When their anger exploded, the 2 brothers bent down to pick up their knives. They slashed continuously at the air as Cha Si-hyuk dodged. Choi Sam-seok faced him head-on. His hands were restrained by Cha Si-hyuk's and vice versa. But Cha Si-hyuk was faster, escaping the hold, and slashed Choi Sam-seok's neck. He fell, dead. Choi Do-seok was utterly terrified, watching his relative die in front of him, and cried out in pain, "Brother!" Then he too was kicked in the head by Cha Si-hyuk and fell to the ground. He cried, "Ah, you son of a bitch!" Another swing of his knife and Choi Do-seok was dead. The radio reported back to headquarters. Mission failed. A total of 18 men, including the 3 triplets, are dead at the scene. Red Shirt's current location is unknown. All personnel outside the company, do not lower your guard. More than 10 men standing outside the headquarters went from surprised to terrified. One man held a radio and said, "Red Shirt's position has been confirmed." A voice came from the radio. "Where is he?" The man stammered, "Well, he's standing right in front of the company gate." Vice Chairman Lee Wang-kwon shouted in terror, "What? He's standing right in front of the company gate?" He strode hastily. "Hold him off. I'll be right down." His underlings watched his departing back and asked, "Captain, are we going out too?" Lee Wang-kwon took the coat an underling handed him, stopped and prepared to leave. "Cha Si-hyuk is here." Those who were on his team will understand what that means. Cha Si-hyuk stood alone, surrounded by countless men in black suits eager to kill him. Countless eyes looked at him with sheer terror. The sound of someone answering a phone to receive an order. Head of security. Oh Nam-woong looked down from a high floor of the building and said into the phone, "Let him in. There are too many eyes watching. We'll deal with Cha Si-hyuk quietly inside the company." The man with 2 large scars on his face ordered, "Make way. We have an order from above. Let him pass." The remaining men told each other, "Everyone move aside." Cha Si-hyuk walked step by step into the elevator, the men in black suits watching him with contempt. Vice Chairman Lee Wang-kwon ran quickly to him and advised, "Si-hyuk, do you really have to take it this far?" He said, "I heard the news. No matter what, those who can live should live. You're blinded right now." The vice chairman warned, "If you go in there now, you'll die." Cha Si-hyuk avoided the issue, replying with a different story. "I received the baby clothes, thank you. Miju loved them." Then he placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Thank you." Vice Chairman Lee Wang-Quan watched his departing back with a look of pity. Alone, Cha Si-hyuk advanced with a knife, and everyone in the company looked at him with wary eyes. A person in the HR department smiled at a customer and said, "Please wait a moment." Then he also glanced at Cha Si-hyuk. He stepped into the elevator. 3 men immediately followed him. A voice announced, "The doors are closing." Immediately, the 3 men rushed to stand with him. He asked, "Is there any reason to drag this out? Let's end this quickly." The doors closed. The men in black suits with weapons slashed continuously at him. The doors opened and it was unclear what had happened inside that elevator. Chairman Lee Wang-Quan asked head of security, "Oh Nam-woong, what about Lee Bong-wan's men?" He replied, "We've confiscated all their weapons and locked them in the conference room. They probably won't be able to get out all day." Oh Nam-woong asked, "But is there a reason to go this far?" Chairman Lee Wang-Quan said, "We have information that Cha Si-hyuk met with Lee Bong-wan." Then the chairman explained, "To you this might look like I'm overreacting." He recounted, "This is a story from before I became chairman." Then he said that back in the past, Lee Bong-wan was standing and talking with him. Lee Bong-wan ordered, "You handle the Sanggu construction case this time." Chairman Lee Wang-Quan replied, "Really?" He replied, "Those guys are real thugs, established dominance from the start. Make sure they don't dare interfere with our project." He looked at him and said, "Do a proper job. Dad has high expectations for you. Do it well." Lee Wang-Quan's transaction location was an old apartment complex. He said to Cha Si-hyuk, who was accompanying him, "Never seen your face before. I didn't expect the backup to be a rookie." He complained, "Hyung-nim is really too much." He turned the doorknob and ordered him, "Rookie, just stand outside today. Don't do anything." The door opened, and he entered a room with many of a man's henchmen, the air thick with cigarette smoke. He bowed obsequiously and held out his hand. "A pleasure to meet you. I am Vice Chairman Lee Wang-Quan." That man replied arrogantly, "Isn't Chairman Lee Bong-wan supposed to come?" He didn't even spare Lee Wang-Quan a glance. "Bring the chairman here. I have nothing to say to you." The man looked at Lee Wang-Quan's gesture of trying to shake his hand and said with contempt, "What is this? How humiliating. We're the ones who call the shots here, understand?" Then a man with a scarred face entered and handed a piece of paper to the other man. The man handed the paper to Lee Wang-Quan and ordered, "Stamp it." He was stunned, frozen. Suddenly, Cha Si-hyuk walked towards the man. The man asked, "What's this? You want to read the contract?" Cha Si-hyuk slapped the man across the face, sending his head to one side and blood flying from his mouth. Chairman Lee Wang-Quan's expression at that moment shifted from surprise to fear. Cha Si-hyuk grabbed the man's hair, forcing his head back, and said, "Listen carefully." In an instant, he smashed the man's head onto the glass table. His face was filled with murderous intent as he continued, "From now on, this is how you greet people." The man's henchmen were bewildered, cursing, "This crazy bastard." One by one, they rushed in to punch Cha Si-hyuk, but were all taken down in a painful manner. Lee Wang-Quan just sat there surprised. After leaving the room, the contract was signed, but the men were lying scattered on the floor. He said to him, "That was reckless. Didn't the other side bring more assassins than agreed? You must have realized it was a disadvantageous situation. Why did you do that?" Cha Si-hyuk looked him straight in the face and replied, "I didn't think I would lose." Finishing the story, he asked him, "Do you know why people like Cha Si-hyuk are dangerous? It has nothing to do with strength. It's because he never picks fights he knows he'll lose right from the start. Cha Si-hyuk is that kind of person. A man who always wins." The henchman in the red vest, standing with many other assassins, was on the phone with Lee Bong-wan, still waiting for orders. He said to him, "Just give the order." Lee Bong-wan sat in his room and replied, "It's time to begin." Lee Bong-wan ordered, "Charge in case of emergency. You are authorized to kill." When the elevator doors opened, 3 men were dead. Cha Si-hyuk stepped out, holding a knife. The assassins waiting outside felt fear and retreated. "Wait, don't push." They were so rushed they were shoving each other. They cursed, "I told you not to push, you bastards, you sons of bitches." One of the assassins erupted in anger, rushing forward to slash at Cha Si-hyuk with a knife. But with just 2 defensive moves followed by an attack from him, the man was stabbed in the shoulder. Cha Si-hyuk twisted the knife inside his body. The man collapsed to his knees in pain. His body in agony, he choked himself to stop the blood from flowing out. Finally, he fell on his own, screaming horribly, his body twisted, dying with his eyes open. The remaining assassins whispered worriedly to each other, "That crazy guy, he's all alone." After the signal, they all charged. All the assassins rushed towards him. Lee Bong-wan's henchman asked him, "Boss, are we really sending in the reserve team now? Our numbers are too small for an all-out assault." He looked at the cigarette in his hand and replied, "Wars aren't decided by numbers alone. Who leads is the key." Then he looked up at his henchman and asked, "If Cha Si-hyuk were standing right in front of you, would you dare draw your sword and strike?" Meanwhile, Cha Si-hyuk was restraining the leader of the assassins, holding a knife to his throat. Lee Bong-wan continued, "In the end, the enemy are just salaried employees. No matter how much they love money, risking their lives is too high a price." He said, "Anyone who has witnessed Cha Si-hyuk fight firsthand will instinctively weigh the risks first, because before being assassins, they are still human. But that doesn't mean they'll back down immediately. After all, he's just one person." But as the battle raged, an assassin hurriedly announced, "Bong-wan's faction is attacking." The assassins currently fighting suddenly became hesitant. What the hell is going on? Weren't we just supposed to deal with Cha Si-hyuk? What's happening? Lee Bong-wan's henchman, the one in red, led countless assassins in. Then he ordered, "Everyone charge in." Lee Bong-wan continued, "Just by increasing the risk a little, the situation will change." Chairman Lee Wang-kwan sat in his office and said, "Things are starting to get interesting." He shouted, "The 12 Zodiacs!" Instantly, 12 assassins stood in 2 rows and shouted clearly, "Chairman!" He assigned tasks, from monkey to pig, protect the rear, 1 billion won each. Then the second group, from rat to ram, kill Cha Si-hyuk. Success will earn you 10 billion. If possible, I want to kill him myself. Whoever captures him alive, I will consider for a promotion. No individual rewards, whoever kills him takes it all. The 12 men descended one by one to the battle. The assassins who had been fighting were surprised. "It's the 12 Zodiacs, you're joining the fight?" Director Song Jae-yeon spoke up, trying to reason. "Section Chief Cha, don't you think things have gone too far? There's no turning back now." Vice Director Choi In-ho continued, "This is ridiculous. How many people have to die because of you?" Cha Si-hyuk picked up a knife from the ground and asked, "How much are you being paid?" Director Song Jae-yeon asked, "What?" Cha Si-hyuk continued, "Whatever it is. I hope it's a lot." The other assassins in the room began to have doubts. "What? You're getting paid separately? Preferential treatment just because you're the chairman's man? Damn it, we're all risking our lives here and this is how it ends?" Director Song Jae-yeon put his hand in his suit pocket, stammering, Fine, I'll grant your wish. Looks like you're eager to meet your ancestors." He pulled out throwing knives from his pocket and accurately threw them at Cha Si-hyuk. He dodged and quickly rushed towards the man. A throwing knife had grazed his face, leaving a long, bleeding gash on his cheek. He threw the man to the ground, punched him repeatedly in the face, then stabbed him in the neck with a knife. It all happened so quickly, blood gushed from the neck. Vice Director Choi In-ho rushed forward, hitting Cha Si-hyuk in the head with a spiked mace. But luckily, he reacted in time, turning his head back and slashing the man's throat. The man flew backward, blood splattering everywhere. Assassin after assassin charged with maces, their spirits high. But all were injured by Cha Si-hyuk in the head, neck, back, or shoulder, dying from excessive blood loss. A man holding a dagger looked at Cha Si-hyuk with eyes full of hatred and ordered, "Get him!" Then, with lightning speed, Cha Si-hyuk made a few moves and they were spraying blood. No longer able to survive, a man with long hair covering his eyes roared, "Die, you son of a bitch!" and used a chain to restrain him. Cha Si-hyuk somersaulted, dodging the chain, and rushed forward to stab the man in the face. The man was only stunned for a moment before he too fell. A man took the opportunity to rush forward and stab Cha Si-hyuk in the leg, injuring him, but afterward his fate was the same, death. Cha Si-hyuk slowly walked towards Director Song Jae-yeon lying on the ground. The man begged, "Wait." Before Cha Si-hyuk could do anything, the man was so scared his face was drained of blood, and he yelled, 100 billion. Whoever kills him, the chairman is offering a 100 billion won reward. The other assassins who had been standing still, not daring to join the fight, now grew even more resentful. They whispered, 100 billion. That elite group hid the reward. Director Song Jae-yeon, seeing the others still calm, screamed and begged, Hey, kill him quickly! The group remained still, exchanging words. If you had said so from the start, we would have helped you fight from the beginning. Cha Si-hyuk grabbed his head. The man begged, Hey, let me go, hey, damn it! The group remained silent. Cha Si-hyuk slammed his head on the floor and said loudly, Looks like the chairman is truly desperate. 100 billion won to kill just me. What are you still standing there for? It's time to make some money. Your only opponent is me. Hearing Cha Si-hyuk's words, the assassins rushed forward at the same time, their eyes filled with determination. He continued, It doesn't seem that hard, does it? On the main hall of the first floor, the scene of mutual slaughter was chilling. Blood splattered everywhere. Dog, as fast as the wind, slashed an opponent's neck, killing him instantly. Rooster kicked an opponent far away, blood flying in all directions. Pig wasn't idle either, punching an opponent in the face, causing saliva to fly out of his mouth as he lost his balance and fell to the ground. Monkey spun around and punched an opponent under the chin, causing his head to snap back, blood to spray from his mouth and his neck to break, killing him. After a short time, the 12 Zodiacs had swiftly dealt with the small fry below. Manager Park Song-jae, with a cold expression, assigned tasks. Dog, take the stairs, make sure Lee Bong-won's men can't get up. Rooster and Pig blocked the entrance. He cracked his knuckles slightly, looking at Han Kang-san standing opposite him. Let me handle him. The elevator was moving to the 22nd floor. Vice Chairman Lee Wang-kwon was in the elevator with two subordinates. The young man with a long scar on his face asked worriedly, Team leader, are we really going to do this? Vice Chairman Lee clenched his fists and replied with a frown, The chairman has offered a 10 billion won reward for Cha Si-hyuk's head. Anyone who doesn't want to participate can step aside. The elevator stopped at the 41st floor, and an announcement sounded. The doors are opening. As soon as the doors opened, the three of them stepped out and were stunned by the scene before them. The scarred man exclaimed, What is this? Inside, men with fierce faces were scrambling to get to the front, shouting non-stop, Get out of the way, I'm going in first, don't cut in, it's 10 billion. None of them would back down. They all rushed towards Cha Si-hyuk, trying to kill him. However, who was he? He was the assassin Redshirt. How could they easily defeat him? With a knife in one hand and the other bare, he punched, kicked, and slashed, killing the fearless men advancing on him one by one. His whole body was covered in the enemy's blood. His white shirt now turned red. He thought to himself, Knives are flying from all directions. The space is too open, there's no terrain to take advantage of. Dodging all the attacks in a place like this is almost impossible. It's a real disadvantage. He was surrounded by eyes like those of tigers and lions. If he made a single mistake, he would be torn to shreds. One of them shouted, rallying the others, Almost there, charge, die, die! The ones behind, one by one, attacked him, shouting, Die! While he was fighting off attacks from the front, from behind, a fearless man kicked away the man in front of him, getting ready to launch a sneak attack. Vice Chairman Lee and his two subordinates, who had just stepped out of the elevator, couldn't stand the sight of hundreds of burly men attacking him at once and righteously intervened, helping him attack the others. While they were excitedly trying to kill him to claim the 10 billion reward, a man from behind was sent flying and landed at their feet. This confused them, and they turned around wondering, What's going on? Vice Chairman Lee shouted angrily, Are you all crazy? How many more people have to die before it's enough? We're fighting each other just because of the chairman's crazy order. Does that make sense? Don't you get it? If you retire the wrong way, you'll end up like Cha Si-hyuk. The chairman is not someone you can trust. There's no guarantee we'll actually get the 10 billion. So stop it. Middle-aged man with a gaunt face stared as if he couldn't believe his ears, replying, Are you telling us to stop? We're assassins. Trust, honor, throw all that stuff away. Killing for money has always been our job, right? Why get a conscience now? You guys just want to find an excuse to take all the reward for yourselves, right? Vice Chairman Lee was quite surprised by the man's response, exclaiming, "What?" The other man voiced his suspicion. "Thinking about it, the timing of your appearance is pretty strange." Another chimed in, "Right, just when we were about to finish the job." They seemed to have gone mad, wielding their weapons and attacking his group, shouting words to incite the others. "You cowards! You think you're the only ones who need money? I'm a father. I need money too. Traitors. Kill them all!" As soon as the words were out, the two sides clashed again. He took the opportunity to run towards the emergency exit. Seeing this, the assassins changed their target, focusing only on him. "He's running away. Don't let him escape." Vice Chairman Lee also ordered his men to block them. However, they split into two groups, one continuing to fight and block the vice chairman's men, the other chasing after him. They ran to the stairwell and found him waiting at the top of the stairs. They shouted to inform those behind, "He's over here. He's almost dead. Kill him quickly." As soon as they charged, he slashed their throats with his knife, one by one. Another fearless man warned, "Stop struggling, just die already." A moment later, the number of surviving assassins could be counted on one hand. Seeing this, the remaining ones still refused to give up and charged, shouting, "Die!" An assassin with a scar running down his mouth and his comrades arrived, seeing the scene of bodies piled up on the stairs, and thought, "Climbing stairs with bodies piled up like this is tough. Were the stairs always this steep?" He saw his figure from a distance, his eyes wide, sweat streaming down his forehead, and he hastily stopped those behind him. "Wait, don't charge in recklessly. First of all..." Reaching this point, he didn't know what to do next, thinking, "Huh? When did we lose so many people?" He was completely exhausted, trying to support his body. He looked up coldly at the men below and urged, "Keep fighting." "What are you standing there for? I said keep fighting." His tone was annoyed as he took step after step down the stairs. But they took step after step backward, crying and begging for mercy. "Please spare us, we were wrong." However, he only said one thing, "Keep going." They begged incessantly, yelling, "Isn't killing enough? Please let us go." He refused flatly. "That's not happening. If you want to live, kill me. The knife is in your hand." His whole body radiated murderous intent as he slowly approached them. He remembered the scene of himself standing in his house, the sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating the whole room. He walked into the kitchen where his pregnant wife was busy preparing breakfast. He stared intently at her small figure, not moving to eat. She looked up and smiled at him, gently reminding, "Why are you just standing there? You'll be late for work. Hurry up and eat, then go." Seeing no reaction from him, she said again, "What are you doing? Hurry up." He was startled and walked over to sit at the table full of hot food, replying, "Yeah, okay." She also sat down opposite him and said, "I have to take the baby to the doctor for some tests. So I won't be eating at home tonight. I was thinking of stopping by my mom's. There's rice in the pot. You can reheat the soup and get some banchan from the fridge." Seeing him lost in thought, she asked, Are you listening?" He replied shyly, I heard you. Thanks for the meal. You must be tired doing all this while pregnant. Should I come to your mom's to pick you up tonight?" She paused her eating for a moment and replied, "No need, it's close, don't worry." As he brought a spoonful of food to his mouth, a tear rolled down his cheek. Seeing this, she asked worriedly, "What's wrong, honey? Is it not good?" The scene before his eyes kept changing, her image blurring and then disappearing. He imagined himself returning home after the battle, still in his blood-soaked clothes. Sitting at a table full of food he couldn't swallow, he said to himself, "Miju, I'll eat in a bit. I'll be home soon." Vice Chairman Lee and the others approached, shaking him. "Si Hyuk, wake up! Are you okay?" He was sitting with his head down, remembering his deceased wife. When awakened, he said nothing, just stood up, and walked past him with a sorrowful expression. Vice Chairman Lee put a hand to his forehead and explained, "It seems the chairman locked up Lee Bong-wan's men, so they'll be a little late. We'll go support them, and come back after we've cleaned up. We've used up all the energy from the meal your wife prepared. Since you've come this far, No matter what, you must kill Li Wangquan. A kick sent an assassin falling from a high floor in front of Manager Park and Han Kang-san. Manager Park rushed forward to attack him. He didn't just stand there waiting to die. He built up momentum and jumped up to kick Manager Park in the side. One of the underlings recognized him. That's Snake from the previous generation of Zodiacs. Another wondered, hasn't he been retired? He's been retired for over 10 years. Why did he suddenly come back? The fight was intense. It was impossible to tell who was stronger. When one attacked, the other defended. After a while of fighting, Manager Park rolled his wrist and said in a disdainful tone, "You were much faster when you were active. You look much older now, Snake." Han Kang-san, who was the former Zodiac Snake, clutched his injured arm and looked up at him. Suddenly, from outside, a few underlings entered, excitedly announcing, "Reinforcements are here. The Zodiacs who went to kill Red Shirt's men are coming back." The alarm blared loudly. Manager Park's underlings immediately went on the defensive, raising their guard. Han Kang-san smiled triumphantly. Manager Park, however, was caught off guard, staring at him in shock. Huh? Li Bongwan's faction had arrived. Li Bongwan's faction had just entered and aggressively ordered, "Kill them all." Another chaotic battle ensued. Manager Park frowned, realizing something was wrong. Han Kang-san struggled to support his injured shoulder, saying smugly, "Seeing only 4 Zodiac members on the first floor means the rest have gone to Cha Si-hyuk. Seeing our men arrive here, it seems your faction has been wiped out." Manager Park cursed angrily, "You bastard." However, Han Kang-san used a taunting tactic. "Don't pretend to be strong anymore, because your right leg is probably useless now." On the 43rd floor, standing in front of the chairman's office, was Section Chief Seo, who had a large build, with his arms crossed and a sharp axe in his hand. The assassin ran for his life to escape his pursuit, cursing as he ran, "Damn it, where is everyone? Why's that guy here?" He was overjoyed to have found a savior. "Huh? Section Chief Seo, I'm alive thanks to you. Everyone else is dead, so I tried to hold on alone. But now that you're here, I can..." Before he could finish his sentence, Section Chief Seo slapped him across the face, making his head whip to the side. Blood from his mouth splattered on the wall, and he collapsed to the floor. Section Chief Seo looked down with a fierce expression, his tone contemptuous. "Running away like an insect. Today you will die at the hands of Cha Si-hyuk." After dealing with that guy, the Dragon Zodiac, Section Chief Seo Jin-ho walked up to him and greeted him. "Long time no see. I didn't think you could make it this far. I heard you took care of the triplets. They thought they could handle everything." At this point, Section Chief Seo paused for a moment, then bared his pearly white teeth in a smile that twisted his face into a hideous grimace and growled, "But didn't they all end up dead in the end? I believe even the chairman, who always favored those bastards, will finally realize that the people he truly needs are us, the Zodiacs." Finishing his sentence, he confidently raised the axe in his hand and aggressively attacked him. But he quickly tilted his head to the side, dodging the axe as it swung through the air. Taking this opportunity, he skillfully bent his body and slashed the man's thigh with his knife. The man screamed in pain like a pig being slaughtered, angrily swinging his axe wildly. He had to continuously dodge as a result. As if he had gone mad, he smashed a nearby fire extinguisher, causing gas to spray out. He took the opportunity to back away, lost his balance, and fell to the ground. Seeing this, the man laughed gleefully. "I can't believe you made it this far with a body like that. I'll give you that." He was about to swing the axe to finish him off, but things didn't go as he planned. He stood up and, while the man was gloating, used his own knife to slash his stomach, causing the axe to fly from his hand and fall to the ground, with blood spraying like rain. From inside the room, a speaker announcement was heard. "All of Li Bongwan's men have been freed. When did the reinforcements arrive?" "The main lobby has been breached. The Zodiac's dog, rooster, pig, and monkey have all fallen." Outside, the assassins who heard this had looks of utter terror. "The Zodiacs have fallen!" They called to their comrades, "Retreat! Retreat!" They scrambled over each other to escape with their lives. By now he was also quite exhausted, using the last of his strength to slash Section Chief Seo's chest one more time. He pulled out the knife without hesitation, causing blood to splatter. The man reacted instantly, putting a hand up to stop the bleeding, and said with a glare, "Not bad." He replied coldly, "I listened quietly because you mentioned the three brothers. But you're even weaker than them." The man was furious to hear such contemptuous words from his mouth, and asked through gritted teeth, "What? I'm weaker? I am the leader of the Zodiacs." Seo Jin-ho leaped up again, swinging his axe to attack, but he was taken down in an instant. Inside the room, Chairman Lee Wong-kwon, head of security Oh Nam-woong, and the others could clearly hear the fight outside. The sound of the door opening was heard. A series of gazes all turned towards the door. As soon as he entered, he questioned, "Why did you have to send people to kill me? I already told you yesterday that I would come myself." He slowly stepped inside, leaving behind the body of Section Chief Seo, who died with his eyes open. His eyes and Chairman Lee's met face to face. Lee Bong-won sat in his office, staring at the phone on his desk. The bald man with a scarred face advised worriedly, "I think we should wait a little longer. I'm not sure what's happened over there, but if it's him, he'll call us." His reflection appeared on the phone screen as he exclaimed, "It's strange. It took 10 years to put the broken pieces of my fangs back together and sharpen them. Thanks to Cha Si-hyuk, everything happened faster than I planned. But thinking about the years I've waited for it to end with just one phone call, it feels excruciatingly painful. I think perhaps I longed for this wait to end, regardless of whether the outcome was one way or the other." He took off his glasses, and a cunning smile spread across his face. "I feel refreshed." As he got closer and closer to the chair where Chairman Lee was sitting, head of security, Oh Nam-woong, and his subordinate stepped forward, blocking him from getting near Chairman Lee. His cold, sharp gaze swept over the group in front of him. At the same time, the subordinates, itching for a fight, could no longer hold back and asked for permission. "Leader, give us the order. Shall we kill him?" Holding their knives, they were ready to fight at any moment, just waiting for the command. Han Kang-san, with blood still wet on his face, entered from a distance with his men. He passed the young man who had been knocked down by Section Chief Seo earlier, who was rubbing his head, not understanding what had happened. "Help! Help!" As soon as Han Kang-san entered, he advised, "Stop the pointless bloodshed, focus on the objective." Chairman Lee maintained a calm demeanor, just waiting to watch the show, observing the situation. Oh Nam-woong's subordinates were also surprised by their appearance, exclaiming, "They got up here so fast. Leader, what should we do?" The two factions faced each other, still waiting for an order. Vice Chairman Lee no longer looked as elegant as when he first arrived. His hair was disheveled, and his clothes were stained with blood. He looked at him thoughtfully. Cha Si-hyuk, he actually did it. Lee Wong-kwon, in his old age, called on the wrong person. He turned that thing into an enemy. In the tense atmosphere, Oh Nam-woong raised his hand and ordered, "Stand back. It's meaningless to keep fighting. Try to live to see another day." This made the subordinates astonished and dissatisfied. They all started murmuring, "What? What?" But they still had to obey the order and step back. He pulled his phone out of his pocket, dialed a number called Lee Bong-won, and then placed it in front of Chairman Lee. "It's a call from the chairman. Answer it." His subordinates didn't understand what their leader was trying to do, their faces filled with suspicion and question marks above their heads. Only then did Chairman Lee react, glaring at him. Then from the other end of the line, a familiar voice was heard. "It's been a while, little brother." The car was speeding down the road. Vice Chairman Lee, sitting in the car, was on the phone with someone. "You handled it very well. I'll be there soon." Just as he hung up, the man sitting next to him opened a newly arrived message. On the phone screen was a message from Miju. "Appa, this is what I found at home," accompanied by 2 cute icons. Seeing his radiant face after reading the message, the man asked curiously, "Did something good happen?" He replied slowly, "I prepared a birthday gift for my wife. I had to leave it at home because I had to work overtime today. It seems she just found it and she loves it." The man was surprised, pretending to be envious. "I thought I was pretty close to you, but I didn't know you had this side to you. She must be a good woman to be able to make you like this." He agreed with what the man said. "Yes, she is." The man turned to look at him, his tone sincere. I'm in a good mood today, too. I can only help you get off work early. Go home. You should celebrate with her yourself. Then he ordered the driver, "Stop the car here." As soon as the car stopped on the side of the road, the man also reached over and opened the door for him to get out. He said shyly, "Sir, you don't have to." Before he could finish his sentence, the man returned to his seat and said goodbye. "See you tomorrow." He got out of the car but was still watching the car speeding down the road. With question marks all over his head, he hurriedly fumbled for his phone in his pocket and dialed his wife's number. "Oh, Miju, let's have dinner together tonight." In the car, the driver asked worriedly as he drove, "Will it be okay without the leader?" Vice Chairman Lee replied slowly, "The situation has been resolved. Bringing him along would only cause more trouble." The car arrived at the pier and stopped. At this point, a series of other cars had already arrived and were waiting there. He got out of the car and said to the driver standing behind him, "Follow me inside." The guards there saw the two of them, and a black man asked suspiciously, "Is he a Neville Cron?" A man with a mustache holding a half-burnt cigarette replied with a contemptuous look, "And another dog is born." As the two entered, the first thing they saw was the image of a man wearing only shorts being tortured, his whole body covered in wounds. His entire body from top to bottom was covered in blood, and he was hanging by a rope. Below him was a basin, its purpose unknown. Without even looking, he knew who had just arrived, and asked with some difficulty, "Is that you, Wang Quan?" He lifted his head, his brow furrowed in a threat. "You son of a bitch! You think you can get away with this? If Dad finds out, you're finished." Li Wangquan was unfazed by the warning, replying, "That's right, Dad loves his eldest son very much. If he finds out, he'll lose his temper. But you see, with everything that's going on, do you think Dad is still alive?" Li Bongwan seemed not to believe it, his voice filled with doubt. "Impossible. You couldn't have done it yourself, right? What monster gave you the confidence to do this?" Li Wangquan took a handkerchief from his breast pocket, wiped the bloodstains from his brother's face, and explained, "The Neville Cron family, with Dosan Construction as their Korean branch. But you and Dad refused. Since things had gone off track, they made me an offer. They would make me chairman." He took the blood-stained handkerchief he had just used and admired it. Li Bongwan glared at him angrily, cursing, "You crazy bastard! Are you planning to give the company to those outsiders?" Li Wangquan quickly retorted, "If it weren't for me, this company would have turned to ash by now. There certainly would have been a heavy price to pay for opposing them. I can't live the rest of my life in your shadow. You've enjoyed many privileges until now. It's my turn to enjoy them. Just think of it that way, okay?" As he spoke, he threw the bloody handkerchief to the floor and stomped on it as if it were something unbearably filthy. Bending down and whispering in his brother's ear, he said, "You've lived your whole life without knowing what it feels like to be ignored, right? I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your life, you bastard." Then he turned and ordered the bald man next to him, "Begin the surgery." The bald man, wearing a raincoat and gloves, holding a knife, asked back, "Should I start with the left hand or the right?" As if he were not a human but an animal to ask such a question. Only then did Li Bongwan feel fear, his mouth stammering, "What? Wait." Li Wangquan paid no attention to his words, pronouncing a sentence. "From the legs." He turned and left, his voice echoing back, "It doesn't really matter." Li Bongwan, seeing his precarious situation, hurriedly called after him, begging for mercy. "Wait, Wangquan. I was wrong. Wangquan, I said I'm sorry. You bastard, stop, damn you." Li Wangquan didn't even glance back, just walked straight out. Inside, pitiful screams echoed out, wave after wave. He raised a hand to cover his face, a triumphant smirk on his lips. When he got outside, one of his underlings quickly spoke up, "Congratulations, Chairman." Then in unison the others followed. "Congratulations, Chairman." His white shirt soaked in blood was no longer recognizable as he stood before Chairman Li. The conversation between Li Wangquan and his brother was playing through the phone. "Yes, you're right, Wangquan. Now it's your turn. Just think of it that way, okay? Have fun. You bastard. The sky was clear blue, sunlight filtering through the towering skyscrapers. The streets were as crowded as ever, with cars honking continuously. On the sidewalk, there was no space left on the pedestrian path, everyone going about their own business. In contrast to that vibrant yet orderly and civilized scene, inside that building, bodies were scattered on the floor, bloodstains still remaining yet to be cleaned up. On a high floor of that building, Cha Si-hyuk stood opposite Chairman Lee. The man reached out and picked up the nameplate on his desk. Cradling it in his hands, he asked, "Do you know the meaning of this nameplate?" He glanced over with a confused look, not knowing what the man wanted to say, and listened quietly. The man was still rambling on. "Before, I was curious about it. What kind of power is this that my father craved so much?" He recalled his childhood and continued his story. "Normally, my father was just the boss of a small organization, collecting debts by dealing with debtors. Financial institutions all over the world liked his abilities and supported him fully. The support was so great that it was enough to become the top assassin organization in Korea. As is common at the age of 17, I already knew how to hold a knife. From then on, I slashed and killed, and at that point I knew the meaning of the nameplate my father loved. Not long after, when that nameplate became mine, I understood the value of my life. A small nameplate holds a path, and on it are left the footprints of my journey." He tilted his head back to the sky, emphasizing, "It is a symbol of power. It is the proof that all must bow before me." He sat up straight again, continuing excitedly, "Hey, the nameplate is my representative, my shadow. It is the reward that I have earned." From behind the nameplate, a blinding light shone, causing even him, standing opposite, to squint. The man seized the opportunity to pull out a hidden knife and lunged, aiming for his neck. But he was no ordinary person to be so easily assassinated, and immediately tilted his head to the side. He built momentum, raised the knife in his hand, and began to attack. The man pointed his knife at him, his expression ferocious, and growled, "Why are you not loyal to me, but turn back to bite me, Cha Si-hyuk?" Vice Chairman Lee, feeling indignant, was about to deal with him but was stopped by Han Kang-san next to him, who put out a hand. "Just watch." Vice Chairman Lee could only grit his teeth and endure, frowning and calling out, "Si-hyuk," then continued to watch the fight. The two of them, one attacking while the other retreated to defend. This cycle repeated many times. In the end, he, being young and strong, took advantage and grabbed Chairman Lee's wrist, twisting it behind his back. This caused the man to cry out in pain, and the knife in his hand fell. Noticing the knife in his hand was pointing at him, the man's eyes widened, and as fast as lightning, another knife emerged from his sleeve, surprising him so much he didn't notice in time, and grabbed the knife with his bare hand. He flinched back in pain, blood dripping incessantly from his hand. The man, knowing he was at a disadvantage, seized the opportunity to attack him barehanded. But he quickly dodged the blow, once again grabbing the man's wrist, and stabbed him with the knife. However, he couldn't pierce through, exclaiming, "A stab-proof vest?" Li Wangquan, still not giving up, kicked him. He also quickly backed away. He looked up and gave a well-intentioned warning. "It's understandable, but no matter what you do, the result won't change. Give up, today will be the anniversary of your death." The man used the knife hidden in his sleeve to attack him, but missed. He immediately slashed the man's chest, causing blood to spray out. The man tried to endure the pain, extending the knife in his sleeve towards him. He was faster, decisively slashing the back of the man's hand. The man, seeing the situation was not good, thought of another plan. "At this rate, I'm going to die. If it weren't for the vest, I'd be a goner." Having seemingly decided on his next course of action, he recklessly charged forward, grabbing his stomach with one hand, while his other hand clawed at the wound on his leg. Annoyed, he cast a deathly glare at the man. He flung him far away. The man looked down at the people standing by watching the show, bewildered to see their eyes looking at him as if they wanted to kill him on the spot. He glanced at each person one by one, then stopped in front of the head of security, pleading and tempting him with money. "Nam Woong, how much did Lee Bong-wan promise you? I'll give you double, no, 10 times that amount, just to deal with a man who's about to die." Oh, Nam Woong adjusted his glasses and said contemptuously, "My old friend, you haven't changed a bit. Why don't you deal with that guy now? Why call me? The man exclaimed in surprise. What? He turned his head and saw him approaching. He slowly walked towards him, questioning as he went. Why did you do it? You couldn't have forgotten the promise between your father and me. The condition for me to retire without any further demands. Do you remember? The man backed away, sweat dripping down, his voice tinged with fear, and began to justify his actions. I had no other choice. After you left, if you joined another organization, my organization would go bankrupt. That's better than dying, isn't it? That's why I sent AQ to kill you, to make sure no one knew. So that bastard told you everything. His face had darkened by now as he asked. AQ didn't act on his own. He's not the type to make his own judgments. It's just that this was too predictable. You were the one behind it. Seeing he had no way out, the man hurriedly begged. I was wrong. It was me for the organization. But in his heart, he was cursing. Damn it. Due to blood loss, everything began to blur. Just a little more. He knew he always carried a gun with him. He just needed to bide his time. He turned to the people around him for help, negotiating. Someone stop him, quick, 1 billion. No, I'll give you 10 billion. As he got closer and closer, the man replied confidently, No one can stop me. You killed her. The only one who could have stopped me. The man pretended to be devastated, collapsing to the floor, waiting for him to approach, a smirk on his lips. He pulled out the gun he had prepared, aimed it at him, and laughed smugly. However, he didn't expect that just as he was about to pull the trigger, his knife was faster, flying and hitting him right in the neck, causing him to pull his hand back and touch his neck. In his eyes, old memories flashed like a short film. Chairman Li Jiangju. When he was young, he had gone through some not-so-good times with his father, being criticized and ridiculed by those around him. His father didn't think much of him, but through that, he learned many valuable lessons. Using many dirty tricks step by step, he was able to climb to the position he holds today. There were also times when his father treated him very well. Wang Quan, are you hungry? Do you want some homemade spicy soup? He collapsed against the wall, his regret coming too late. If I had realized sooner that the image of my father had blurred my vision, that shadow was like an obstacle for those who wanted to hide under his wings. If I had realized sooner, maybe things would have been different. Maybe I, too. He looked at the man's pathetic, defeated state and cursed, Damn it, you piece of trash. Go on ahead, wait for me a bit. I'll be there soon. Fluorescent lights flickered, reflecting off the concrete floor of the parking garage. Footsteps echoed endlessly in the silent space. 2 large trucks were parked close together, their doors wide open, waiting to receive more bodies. The body handlers around the trucks were dressed meticulously, not a sliver of skin visible, as they quickly and nimbly loaded each corpse into the trucks. In another corner of the building, a member of the organization was checking information on his phone and complaining. I told you to come up here. Why are you cleaning the first floor? The subordinate next to him grabbed the white-haired man's arm and pulled him away. How much longer do we have to wait for them? Take him down. He grabbed a handful of the white-haired man's hair and cursed, Damn it! Why don't you just die and stop bothering everyone? After cursing, he started giving instructions. Hey, grab here, not there. He pulled the man's hair up, lifting his body a little, which made him frown and remark, Lighter than I thought. Suddenly, someone in a white suit appeared and placed a hand on his shoulder, then pushed him hard, causing him to lose his balance and be sent flying. The subordinate next to him was terrified, breaking into a cold sweat, and unconsciously let go of the white-haired man's arm he was holding. Onam Wung bent down and helped the white-haired man up, to the astonishment of the 2 men from before. He put the white-haired man's arm over his shoulder and placed him on his back. Let me. Then he carried him away under the many suspicious gazes of the subordinates. But of course no one dared to ask a single question. Cha Si-hyuk stood in the cold hallway, his body long since covered in dried blood. His arms hung loosely but stiffly, his hand still clutching the bloody knife. Lee Bong-wan arrived to see his tired figure and said, Cha Si-hyuk, I owe you one. Si-hyuk heard his voice but didn't turn around immediately. Bong Wan stood at a distance from him and thanked him seriously. Thanks to you, I was able to punish the unfilial son who killed the former chairman. On behalf of the staff, I would like to express my gratitude. He cautiously asked about his condition, but are you okay? Seeing that Si-hyuk said nothing, he continued. The fact that we killed Lee Wang-kwan means that Neville has lost its Korean branch. This is beyond the old man's protection. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. They will definitely come to collect this debt. Si-hyuk turned his head to look at him, his eyes weary. He didn't want to say anything more. Seeing this expression, Bong Wan didn't say anything more about the tense situation either. He turned to the underlings following him and said, Right, it's best to rest first. He asked a few people next to him, You two, help him up for me. I have to go check on the casualties among my subordinates. With that, the two men went up to support Si-hyuk, while he turned away, but his eyes were still on him. He bowed his head and thought to himself, if the other side hadn't called for reinforcements, the situation would have been very different. Then Bong Wan turned and walked in the opposite direction, while the two men were still very worried about Si-hyuk's condition. The man supporting Si-hyuk said, Hey, you idiot. He looked at him, who was so exhausted he couldn't even lift his head. Look at this mess, it's all over. Just as the sun began to rise, its gentle rays pierced through the transparent glass of the skyscrapers, casting a shimmering, warm haze over the bustling, luxurious city. Let's go home. In an empty room, Lee Bong-wan sat in a wheelchair, his gaze directed towards the large window. In contrast to the warm, sun-filled scene outside, the inside of the building only reflected a few rays from the window, the space within still feeling very cold. A man walked up to him. When the man was standing next to him, Bong Wan slowly began to explain the meaning of his name. Wang means righteous, Wan means leader. The name Jiang Ju gave me, telling me to live uprightly and properly, yet he himself lived the complete opposite. He asked the scarred man next to him, Pildo, are you planning to come back? The man was the former head of security, whose name was Pildo. He tilted his head, looked towards him, and said with a smile, With the situation like this, I have to take care of young Master Bong Wan. Pildo took out a cigarette to smoke. I'm worried that Mr. Jiang Ju's company will really go bankrupt, just like its name. Lee Bong Wan laughed. Hey, Lee Jiang Ju. I objected to that company name, but who could change his stubborn mind? Pildo threw the finished cigarette to the ground and said in a low voice, Master, Neville has arrived. Wang Quan replied matter-of-factly, Yes, my token can only stop them once. This time they will surely come. Pildo listened with a blank expression, walking into a trap of his own making. Both of them looked outside, each lost in their own thoughts. Si-hyuk is about to face difficulties. At the Dosan branch of Dosan Construction Company, everyone was in a panic over the latest news. Lee Wang-kwan, chairman of Dosan, is dead. The Hano Energy branch of the Dosan Construction Group also received similar news. The person who received the news repeated the announcement in a panic as soon as it reached his ears. The entire company was overthrown by Red Shirt in a single day. After hanging up, he quickly ordered his subordinate, Contact Chairman Lee Bong-wan immediately. Begin implementing the plan to gain the chairman's trust. We have to side with him first. At the Stone Collection Hotel in London, England, there was great excitement. How interesting. A girl leaned against a table holding a newspaper. Korea's notorious assassin, Red Shirt, brings down the Korean branch of the Neville family, the Dosan Group. She judged silently. It's about to get chaotic again. The servant standing by remained silent. The one who dares to confront Neville is... She sat down on the chair, smirking. Si-hyuk. At the Neville family estate. The glaring red light that replaced the normal lighting in the dark room made the space extremely hazy, and it was very difficult to recognize anyone in it. A serious-looking man who seemed to be the leader spoke first. Is the information in that data file correct? A man with glasses and a terrifying gaze who was present at the meeting replied, Yes. It all started when Lee Bong-wan killed Cha Si-hyuk's wife. It seems he acted on his own after his previous request to assassinate Cha Si-hyuk was denied. A woman with a luxurious appearance leaning back on the sofa with an arrogant posture spoke. In the end, he foolishly brought disaster upon himself. Now that the Glande token is no longer effective, we have no reason to stop them anymore. The middle-aged man continued. Yes, no matter what, Neville's Korean branch has collapsed. We cannot sit idly by. A long-haired man coldly ordered, call the predators. Tell them they're about to meet an old friend. 3 badges were neatly arranged on the table. Burly men wearing only shorts knelt before Bong-won, apologizing. I was wrong, Bong-won. He remained calm as if nothing had happened. Don't do that. Let's talk for a bit. Bong-won sat comfortably on the chair, holding a cigarette, his relaxed demeanor a stark contrast to the others. 3 badges, he continued slowly. Not only did you deceive that fool Wang Quan, handing over the entire company to Neville, but in exchange, you killed my father and took half my leg. Bong-won questioned mockingly. All you got were 3 badges? Although the evidence was clear, perhaps because Bong-won was still asking questions so casually, they thought they still had a chance. One of them spoke up, trying to rationalize what they had done and also trying to calm Bong-won down. No, we just chose the best solution for the company. You know the consequences of opposing the Neville family. One of the 3 men kneeling before him also added, That's right, Bong-won. Even now, it's not too late to show loyalty to the Neville family, even if it means promising more money than Lee Bong-won ever did. They all chimed in with the offer. We have a communication network. It will surely be useful. Bong-won leaned back in his chair and said gently, No, that's not it. The surrounding bodyguards began to encircle them. If you still have time, why don't you say a prayer? Only at this moment did they see the clear gap between them and this chairman. Even when they stood up straight, they were still a dozen steps below him. The bodyguards had already reached them. Bong-won's words seemed gentle, but the dangerous, murderous intent was no different from a death sentence. Because it's about to end. These men were now even more afraid. The man, with not even a scrap of cloth on him, was sweating profusely. He frowned. Can you handle it? The Neville family never forgets a grudge. Bong-won remained calm, looking out the window. You know, I've lost everything because of them. What else is there for me to endure? He brought the cigarette to his lips and took a drag. He calmly watched the romantic sunset outside, while the sounds of fighting and the screams of the men being dealt with echoed in his ears. I'll be waiting here, Neville. In the heart of the modern city stood a towering building, glowing brightly against the dark purple sky. Extremely prominent, the elevator had stopped at the 97th floor. Inside were men of different builds, but all had firm muscles and exuded a thick, murderous aura. The door was opened by 2 underlings, their faces filled with murderous intent. Inside the room the elevator led to were men in elegant black suits, their murderous aura not much different from those they were facing. One by one, they stopped at the elevator door to be searched before stepping deeper into the room. The blond man in the black suit said, No one else, follow me. The whole group followed behind the 2 underlings. A muscular young man complained, Do we have to be checked like this every time we come up? What a hassle. The others also started talking. A tall man said, Vasa vana plurimum sonant. Empty vessels make the most sound. A smaller guy continued, laughing mockingly. Give it a rest, Anka. He doesn't understand that. The muscular man from before retorted mockingly, We have a similar saying in Korea, you bastard. The smaller guy from before got defensive when he heard that. You bastards, huh, you bastard? A slightly taller man with shoulder-length hair and a Chinese-style outfit also interjected, If you're not going to fight, then don't talk. We're here to see our superior. The smaller guy was dissatisfied, but said nothing more, just clicking his tongue and letting it go. The man who had been leading the group suddenly stopped. Ahan reminded them in a low voice, Everyone, pay attention. Do not speak after entering this room. A voice from inside invited them in. Come in. The muscular man scratched his head. Every time I come in here, it feels so dirty. The door opened and a red glow from inside began to leak out. They stepped inside. Behind the door was a scene steeped in red. Not only was the staircase the color of blood, but so were the surrounding sharks. The overall effect was undeniably terrifying. On the upper level, lining both sides of the railing, were imposing bodyguards holding guns. They all watched the group's every move. A representative stepped forward, stopping no more than 10 centimeters from the staircase. Opposite him were the people who had been in the Neville family's meeting room. They looked as mysterious and terrifying as ever, and this time, the murderous aura was even stronger with the backdrop of blood-red sharks swimming in a deep ocean. "Greetings, sirs." The long-haired man spoke first. "You must have received the news. The token has fulfilled its mission." Zhyuk leaned against the headboard of the bed, his body covered in scars, with new wounds bandaged, looking extremely pathetic. But on his neck was a very distinctive scorpion tattoo. "You owe him a debt that needs to be paid." A tattoo that all the men who had just met with the Neville family had, only the location of the tattoo was slightly different. The man from the Neville family gave the order to Tosa. "I authorize the assassination of Cha Si-hyuk." The man, whose face was unclear, coldly accepted the order. "Understood. Everyone heard that, right? Our target this time is—" All the brothers in the group shouted in unison, "Cha Si-hyuk."